Enchanté, mon chers. We are here for our midweek alchemy message. This is where we unpack our spiritual lessons for the week and look more at the approach to the work. If you're new to the channel, on Mondays we do our anchor message, which gives us our spiritual lessons for the week. Sunday is our weekly energy oracle forecast, and it gives us the 7-day forecast for the spiritual weather, so to speak. And then Fridays are usually our more reflective message for the weekend. It kind of like rounds out the week's lessons and kind of fills in what we've been working with. On Tuesday, we do our Oracle Manifestation reading, and then Thursdays, we do our weekly Romance Love Tarot reading. So let's get started. Oh, also, if you want a quicker look, you guys probably see these, I filmed them Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you might actually see them Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, and Saturday morning. But if you want to get a look at the message before the video comes out, I post them on Instagram at Liz_Taylor_Magick. And I finally got to 1,000 subscribers and one dropped off. So somebody go follow me there. But you can find those there midday on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There's usually a stunning picture, if I do say so myself, and a nice little write-up. And you might get more a different message from the written message than we do when I'm just waxing rhapsodic on the video. All right, so let's get into it. By the way, everyone that I talk to, including myself, is still tired from the full moon. I am so sleepy that I could have fallen asleep standing up at work. So yeah, I'm probably gonna try to go to bed a little earlier tonight, and I got out of work a little earlier, so that was nice. So from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck, we've got Jupiter showing up, a very welcome sign, if I do say so myself. We've got Rosa Tad Pibus, which is the red and white rose. And then we've got the Despicable Face, which to me always, this illustration is so genius, even though it's so abstract. It reminds me of anger and shame and throw up. It's the Despicable Face. Underneath Jupiter, we have the moon, which I think that we're all still feeling the influence of that Capricorn full moon for sure. We've got underneath the red and white rose, we've got Queen of Cups. Underneath the Despicable Face, we've got Wheel of Fortune. And then to sort of tie the reading together and end it on a high note, we've got Three of Cups with the Sun that came out together. So it's very positive, very exciting. Amazing. So Jupiter is the big expander. Jupiter expands our horizons. It expands our mind and our philosophy and opens our mind. It expands our fortune and possibilities and our opportunities. It expands our abundance. Jupiter, Sagittarius and Taurus are linked as opposites on the wheel. And so I always kind of link Jupiter and Taurus together. I'm wondering if Jupiter is still in Taurus. I know that was an aspect that was going to be going on for a length of time, but Jupiter has been in Taurus, expanding those themes of Venus, beauty and security and money and love. So if you haven't had any of those things expand yet, don't count yourself out. Something could still happen. Everything I feel like has been building to culminate in such a way. So don't feel like that is a lost cause for yourself. So underneath Jupiter, also like it might expand like your interests and curiosity into wanting to, I don't know, study a certain area, or maybe like you're feeling really into like a certain like philosophy, or your philosophy is expanding, or maybe you're like getting interested in going deeper into like theology, or like your beliefs and your spiritual beliefs and going deeper there. But overall, I feel that these two connected, the moon and Jupiter, I believe that what the last Capricorn full moon did was it pulled up and magnified parts of ourself that were like blind spots, fully into our awareness, and put it in our face, right? We've got this despicable face here. And it brought things up so that we had the opportunity to change them. The other day, Phil Good, I don't know if you guys follow him, he's a spiritual intuitive. He was saying that whenever like something uncomfortable about himself is brought up into his awareness, instead of getting uncomfortable or wanting to like turn away or like not sit with the feelings of it, he says to himself, I appreciate this opportunity. It was like his affirmation was, I appreciate the opportunity to become more aware. And I myself have been on that train this week. I'm no different. There have been things in my personality coming out and being reflected back to me that I need to kind of soften some rough edges, right? I can be a very direct, straightforward person, and I take direct, straightforward feedback pretty well. And so sometimes I just say things matter-of-factly. And because of my like heightened energy and the strength of my aura, for a sensitive person, it can be a lot. And like, I might not think of anything of it. I can just be like, bleh, and I just be very blunt, right? I've got a stellium in Sagittarius. Sagittarius can be pretty blunt. And sometimes they can accidentally like hurt people's feelings. And they're like, what'd I say? Like, I just thought I was saying a fact, you know? And people get, you know, really like, their you know, her feelings hurt or whatever. So I've had to sort of try to rein it in a little bit, you know, I'm not dimming my light, but like I'm taking that into account and trying to be a little bit more conscientious, right? And I say this in all earnesty. I think that there might be a chance that I am brushing the variables of the spectrum a bit when it comes to like neurology, and maybe leaning into, you know, some areas there where I might be atypical in some ways. And so it's not an excuse, but to me, sometimes when I'm just being literal or blunt, like I don't think of it in any way, but like I don't know, when people receive it, I can even be like super sincere and enthusiastic about things, and they think that I'm being sarcastic and facetious. And I'm like, no, I really mean it. Like, they're like, are you fucking with me? And I'm like, no. So yeah, bringing things into your awareness in a sort of magnified way, almost like highlighted or like put under a magnifying glass so that you can see it more clearly in order to transform that darkness. So basically in Kabbalah, we learn about tikkun, and tikkun is our soul's contract, right? As we go through life after life, we carry the same soul with us, and different aspects of our soul come up on the table for review each lifetime. And it's like, okay, in this lifetime, I need to strengthen these character flaws, and I'm going to use these talents, and I'm going to work on elevating and perfecting my soul through every life, right? So we do come up against these moments where things are brought into our awareness, and it's good to be grateful for the opportunity so we can change that density, that darkness, into light and tip our cosmic scales. See, I always have my scales back here because it's a constant reminder of, you know, trying to move that balance in the universe from, you know, keeping the heavy side on the light side and making less darkness in the world. So during our lives, like, so we're born with our natal chart, and it's like we're born with the hand of fate dealt to us. And if we look at our natal chart, that basically describes our fated life. However, it's only our fated life if we don't choose to work on ourselves, we don't face any fears, we don't take any chances, we don't try to grow our courage or our sensitivity, we don't try to strengthen our insecurities, and we don't take a chance, right? We don't grow our faith. So if we don't do anything, we don't work on ourselves, we don't do any healing, basically that fate will probably play out pretty close to what we see on our natal chart, on our astrological chart. Now, our destiny, we can claim our destiny when we start doing the work, when we start going deeper into our faith and into our beliefs and actually start changing ourselves. And so every night when we go to bed and we go to sleep and we fall into a deep sleep, this is why it's very important, not only to your brain chemistry, now brain science is starting to catch up with this, but mysticism has been describing this since the beginning of time, that when you go into a deep sleep, this is cleansing for your soul. It's cleansing on a physiological level because this is when your lymphatic system purges itself, right? And then this is where your brain chemistry renews and purges and detoxes and fills the chemicals back up. So on a physiological sense, deep sleep is very important. But on a soul level, it is very important too, because when we get into a deep sleep, our soul leaves our body and goes up to the upper realms, or at least a portion of our soul. Enough to, we have enough left to stay alive. So it goes to the upper realms and it goes through a cleansing. It's like a miniature death. And that cleansing is like Judgment Day. And we go before our committee and our spirit team, and they assess the day. And they're like, okay, we reviewed the plays, and you had some dings in the morning, but you kind of pulled back and won the day. By the end of the day, you were regretful, you were remorseful, you made some changes, you made some peace with some things, you let some things go, you forgave. Whatever it is, if you have done some deep inner work that day and you have done something to evolve that day, then your script for the next day can be altered into a more positive story. So maybe you were going to have a little bit of chaos, a little bit of judgment the next day, but because you forgave, or you did a healing, sharing act that healed your relationship, say with your mother, or you did an act of charity or something of that nature, something cleansing happened to you that day, then the story gets a little bit shifted for the next day. And maybe some of the judgment you would have experienced is rewritten and something nice happens, or neutral. And so it's like every night, tomorrow's episode is written according to your good works, or not, of the day that you just finished. So as we grow ourselves and as we face this darkness and do the work to transmute that darkness and really do change and become better people and become more like the light, more like God, we change our fate and we claim our destiny just a little bit at a time, 1 degree at a time. And so this here is saying hey, Jupiter is here to expand something good. When we learn about Saturn, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. And so our last full moon and the full moon before that, we had back-to-back full moons in Capricorn. This last one was in the anaretic degree, which means the last degree, the 30th degree of Capricorn, which means the most potent, saturated Capricorn energy you can get. So it was pretty severe. It was pretty stern. And Saturn is the disciplinary one. It's the stern one. It's your time is running out. Your time is precious. What are you doing? Are you in alignment with your most authentic self? Are you in alignment with your life's purpose? And if not, you need to get there. But if we do the work, if we take our discipline, with a positive, accepting, open heart and mind and soul, then Saturn does leave us a gift. So I feel like it's very positive that we have Jupiter here crowning the moon, saying like, hey, look, this influence of the moon came out. We were howling at it like this wolf. I literally was. And if we have done if we have, done repentance in our heart sincerely, Saturn will leave us a gift. And so I feel like Jupiter is about to expand our good fortune, because we have looked at our darker nature. We've looked at what is our reactive tendencies, or our insecurities, or our fears. So when we look at the sun and the moon, the sun represents the light of God, the light of the Creator, the light of Jesus. It's constant, it's unwavering, it's eternal, it's perpetual, it doesn't fluctuate. But when we are the vessel, right, receiving the light, we are the moon. The moon, so the sun is the cause, it's unaffected. The sun gives the light and it causes things to grow. And you can't do anything to affect the sun. But the moon is the effect, right? It has no light of its own. It can only reflect what the sun is shining on, reflect the light of the sun that's shining upon it. So the sun, or the moon, represents our reactive nature, our affect consciousness. So, and sometimes we're full of light, and sometimes we are completely lacking the light. And we can, wax and wane and, be up 1 minute and down the next. And so the moon is the vessel. The moon is the receiver. And so this is like us trying to overcome our affect consciousness, to be affected by all of the outer circumstances, to be emotionally affected and then be reactive and take action from an emotional state rather than having control over our emotional state. So having seen these parts of ourselves with a sincere desire to change, Jupiter is now coming in with some expanding good fortune. We have the red and white rose, which represents the work being done in the alchemist's lab. And I'm going to read this card because there's more to it than that. But I feel like this good work, this effort that we're doing is bringing us more. It's making us more intuitive. It's making us more compassionate, more caring. It's bringing out that more tender side of us, like the Queen of Cups. It's enhancing that energy. The Queen of Cups is receptive and intuitive and insightful and wise. She has the depths of emotion and she's comfortable with those feelings and exploring those feelings. The Queen of Cups is very nurturing and loving. Other than like the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Pentacles are the mothery queens of the deck. And so the Queen of Cups also is about working on your boundaries so that you don't overextend yourself to the point where you've become depleted and you have nothing to give either. So sometimes the Queen of Cups is so empathic and so sympathetic that she overdoes it, right? And she lacks boundaries. And so a lot of our cards recently coming up have been talking about realizing that our needs do matter and that we can learn to communicate those in healthier ways and set boundaries and respect other people's boundaries and learn how to navigate that realm. And so with the work that we're doing, we're learning how to protect our own energy and have set healthy boundaries to be able to communicate those needs and boundaries in a healthy way. But then in turn, that gives us more vitality and life force, and it makes us stronger and more self-possessed so that we have more to give to others, that we can come from more compassion. Because when you're depleted and you're worn thin and you're spread thin and you're just burnt out, that's when you start losing compassion for the others around you. Because you're just in survival mode, honestly, and you start to become defensive. So let me read y'all the red and white rose. Okay, vital force, arising, awakening. In the laboratory, the merging of red and white is an exquisite moment. It means something is coming to life before the alchemist's eyes. The pristine white of the rose is not threatened by the blood red pigment. Their mixing does not make pink. Rather, each color remains vibrantly itself, expressing its message. Now, to me, this immediately brought to mind, like, the self-sacrifice of the ego does not mean we lose ourselves completely, right? It's like we can learn to sacrifice the lower aspects of the ego and still have a healthy, strong sense of self and personality and self-preservation, and we can own our needs and our preferences and our desires. We're not going to completely lose ourselves, but we are more willing to make conscious self-sacrifice in the name of the highest good, in the name of becoming more like Christ. Right? Does that make sense? Especially with the context of the queen sometimes overgiving and then becoming like defensive and like protective of herself, and kind of like almost like a caged animal that hasn't had their, like, that hasn't been well taken care of, right? If you find like a neglected animal, they're very defensive, they're very fearful, they're not trusting until they are taken in and shown care and their needs are met. They're no longer in survival mode. So it's like we can sacrifice ourselves and begin to empty the self, do the gnosis of self-emptying, but it doesn't mean that we lose ourselves in that. We become more of ourselves because of it. So the pristine white of the rose is not threatened by the blood red pigment. Their mixing does not make pink. Rather, each color remains vibrantly itself, expressing its message. Like the rod of Asclepius, representing health and vitality, the floss sapientum appears to signify the awakening of the physical as a gateway to the spiritual. Without the body, spiritual teachings remain conceptual, not yet integrated into the everyday. And this is so true. It's like spirit needs the human beings to be on earth to do its work, right? God needs us. I mean, God uses us to be God's representatives on earth. And spirit uses people so that we can bring the messages forth, right? The angels work through us, right? Without us, there's nothing going on. And the only reason we come here is to be stewards of this work and ambassadors of the higher realms, right? When we talk about the purpose of human beings on earth, it's like our souls come here to transform this darkness into light. So it's never about having to be perfect. It's just that we need to come here and own our humanity, you know, our humanness, as well as our divine nature as well. And the more that we own that humanness and accept it and grow through it, that's when we open up to our divine selves, that divinity within. Okay, so without the body, the spiritual teachings remain conceptual, not yet integrated into the everyday. This card encourages the alchemist to honor the body as a temple each and every day, observing it, listening to it, mining it for information and guidance. At its height, this card signifies a mastery, a uniting of body to serve the soul's purpose. So it reminds me a lot of the Temperance card too. Integrating the spiritual into the material world. So this card signifies a mastery, a uniting of body to serve the soul's purpose, as seen in the likes of dancers, athletes, and during the birthing process. One of my tables tonight were some parents whose kids were like in the labor room, like one of their daughters is in labor, and the other was like the mother of the son. And she had been in labor all day. Like she went into labor last night and the labor had just been lasting. Yeah. So, okay, moving forward. Now, resist the temptation of, once we see that shadow side of the self, not to push that into the shadow, not to hide it in shame or avoid it or turn away from it, but to see that despicable face and be able to accept it. Right? We don't want to spiral down in shame. We were given this despicable material here so that we could transmute it and transmute that darkness and make it a strength within us. That's our rent on earth, is to take these dark parts of our nature as human beings and transmute that into light, because it will forever change the balance of the cosmos. What was negativity and density will then be, go forward from now on, is transmuted into light, into love, that will then perpetuate through the cosmos as light, instead of weighing it down in heaviness and darkness and perpetuating anger and judgment and division and prejudice, right? So don't be ashamed of the despicable face. Accept that part of yourself so it can be healed and transformed. But we don't want to feel the shame, because then we look away. And when we look away, we can't heal it. We can't do anything about it. The more that we look at it, the less it has power over us, right? The less we fall victim to letting that part of ourselves come out of control, because we didn't want to see it. We didn't want to see it. And so it comes out and it wreaks havoc. And so the shame, the guilt, that just holds us down too, and it sends us down further and further into that downward spiral. So by accepting this, even this too, and resisting the urge to self-loathe and self-punish and self-sabotage and all of that, we're breaking those cycles within ourselves, and we're breaking those patterns and those tendencies. And we've got the Wheel of Fortune coming up again. So 2 times in this reading, we've got double doses of Jupiter and the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is a Jupiter card. And so the Wheel of Fortune starts to turn as we heal the despicable things in ourselves that we don't want others to know. We don't want others to see. We think, oh, this will make me so unlovable. How can I live with myself? Like when we can love those parts of ourselves until they are healed and changed and transformed. It's not, when we say we love and accept those parts of ourselves, it's not like, when you hear that people misquote or like take this out of context when Marilyn Monroe said, if you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. That has become like the narcissist anthem of like, just accept my horrible behavior or else it's your problem. It's like, it's not like that, right? It's not accepting it and we're not going to change it. It's being able to hold space for our imperfection without falling into self-loathing, right? It's being able to say, okay, I forgive myself, but I'm going to do better, right? Instead of obsessing and ruminating and, oh, I can never live with myself. I can't forgive myself over this. It's like, no, you know what? Just do better. I appreciate the opportunity to become more aware. And instead of beating myself up and groveling on the ground, it's like, just do better, right? Just do better. So many times, have you ever heard like, some of those crocodile tears and you're just like, I don't want to hear it. Just show me change, right? We've all been there. We've all been on both sides of that, right? So when we do put up or shut up, when we do the change, Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune, starts shifting us into that higher destiny. And boy, oh boy, do we have good news to end the reading. We've got 3 of Cups, which is like celebration and friends and like mirthfulness, right? This is joy. This is positivity. This is births and graduations and things to celebrate, engagements. So it's like it's not necessarily like the culmination of a complete celebration like a wedding, but this is like the beginning of something good happening, right? Feeling like you have cause to like let your hair down a little and things are going well. They're starting to go in a really positive direction. So it's the beginning of new joy, new depths of healing friendships and relationships, right? I know that like as a server, one of the things that I was happy to leave film, and this is like freaking masochism right here, but as a freelancer, you're not forced to be around the same people all the time. And so you don't necessarily go through issues of like butting heads and having to like go through uncomfortable times with people and stick with it and like get over it and be closer afterwards. And so one thing I wanted leaving the film industry was to be able to work somewhere and hack it out with people and stick through it, stick with it, and learn to love people even when we weren't getting along, kind of thing. And so it's like the changes that we're making are helping us deepen our friendships, deepen our, make our relationships with our coworkers more positive. Relationships with our potential romantic partners are the ones that we have better. Going into a deeper, intimacy, but also just lighter fun. It like lightens the mood. It lightens the atmosphere. We've got the sun here, which is like a rebirth of consciousness and a reawakening of like purity and joy and lightheartedness, abundance. Like when the sun card shows up in a reading, it's like, wow, whatever you're trying to work on, it's going to work out well, or it's going in a good direction. It's like a really positive, affirming card. And it signals that the light of revelation is coming in. So it's like we start this reading with the moon and we're like, all this like shadowy darkness. And we're like, we're going to face this, I guess. Oh, it's like really difficult, really uncomfortable. But at the end of it, we're getting the light, we're receiving the light, right? And I always love this artwork because this woman, it looks like she's caught the bird, like almost like a boomerang. And it's like she's got the message. She finally got the message. Birds are messengers. And it looks like she just caught it like a boomerang. I've got the message. We got the message. We've got the enlightenment. We've got the revelation. And now as the vessel, we've prepared the vessel in such a way, we've opened the vessel to receive the light. If you are rejecting the despicable face and you're in a downward spiral of shame, you can't receive the light. You're going back into the dark, right? So we're letting go of that. We're releasing, we're forgiving ourselves. We're having compassion. We're renewing ourselves. Go baptize yourself. We are made anew. We're cleansed. Ritual cleansing is amazing. So yes, so very positive light finish, much to celebrate, much to be excited about. And where things have felt really tense for the last few weeks, things are going to start lightening up. They're going to start feeling more joyous and more positive. I will note, just public service announcement, emergency broadcast system, that the month of Cancer brings in 3 of the most challenging weeks of the year. And I'm going to keep talking about this so we're all aware of it. But until August 14th, and now we're going into Mercury retrograde during Virgo season, which is our yearly moment before we're moving into Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur season, where we are reevaluating, right? The whole month of Virgo is the month of Teshuvah. It's the month of repentance and returning to the path, getting back on track, getting back to the self, right? Returning to the true nature of the light of our soul. And so this 3 weeks sort of sets us up to start into that time period. But the 3 weeks that this time period, we're in that Mercury retrograde, where we go back and reevaluate. Okay, like what are our routines? How's our approach to life? What are the structures that need to change? How do I need to change my habits and lifestyle? What in me needs to change moving forward? As we're evaluating, okay, what am I preparing to do teshuvah for? What am I repenting of? What do I want to get back to my higher self, right? I haven't been myself lately. I've just been off, right? It's like, how do we get back to that? How do we get out of that? The word sin to me doesn't necessarily mean doing it does mean doing, things that are not, that are immoral or that are unethical, but sometimes it's just missing the mark, right? Not being really in alignment with that higher part of yourself, but kind of losing sight of it, right? So how are we, the prodigal son, returning home to the self? We're kind of preparing and evaluating that over the next 3 weeks. So these 3 weeks can be a very challenging time of year. And so it is good to refrain from making any major moves or decisions that like are like set in stone, right? If you were going to start a new job, it's like, don't leave the old job yet. Try to have like time where you have both jobs, so that in case the other one is like worse than the one you're in, or like it doesn't work out, the position falls through, or there's like layoffs or something, it's like you still have that transitional, you still have the foot in the other place, so to speak. If you are shopping for homes, don't put an offer down on a place and sign the final paperwork yet. Like, let that process drag out, because something might come out that you didn't know. Like black mold could be hiding somewhere, or the foundation could be faulty. You could learn that someone died in that house and you're like, oh, I don't want to like live there or whatever. Or maybe like there's some weird easement that like the government's going to come like build a road like going right through your property or something. So just hold off until August 14th. And my Kabbalah teachers were like, this is the thing. Like, this is a time to practice certainty, and it's a stretch of our faith. Because if the thing is really meant for you and it's really yours, it's already set aside in your spiritual vault, in your bank account. And so if it's really yours, if it's meant for you, it will be there on August 14th. And if it's not meant for you, then it's not going to work out, and it's going to bring a little bit of chaos and a little bit of judgment. And sometimes we can force the things that aren't really ours, but like they're never really right. And then they fall through. And then it's like, we put so much energy and sometimes resources and investment into something that was never really ours to begin with. And it just seems to be, it just sets us back in time, and it wastes our energy, it wastes resources. So just trust over the next 3 weeks. Like, you don't have to be completely in a frozen state. Like, continue to like go forward with your plans carefully and prudently, but don't rush any major decisions quite yet. Take your time, let things play out slowly, and see how it all shakes out by August 14th. All right, y'all. I hope that this serves you well. Thank you guys I just got to look at my comments and things from yesterday very briefly when I got home, and I noticed there was a lot of sweet comments. Last night was sort of like one of those videos where I like my emotions come out, I get vulnerable, and I tell some personal stories. So people were really sweet about it, and they had some really nice things to say. So I appreciate the kind words and the kind comments. And I will be back with you guys tomorrow for our weekly romance reading. So that's always a fun one. I'll see y'all then. Ciao. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, then please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to be notified of when I drop content. Like the videos, comment, share them. Anything that you do helps these messages get out to other people who need them. So you watching a video and taking an action on it actually makes a positive difference in someone else's life.